About
getting your stuff.
funding ordinance.
City council meeting?
Yeah,
It's a lot to take.
Maybe it's my computer.
Actually,
I can see it, but I can't now move it over.
I just barely looked at it. Well, that's fine.
Because I like to keep it
Alright.
in file so I can refer back.
Okay. All right, welcome to our city council meeting for tonight, August 28th, 2019. We need to excuse Councilman Cousins. He will not be here this evening. And we will begin with an invocation by Steve and the pledge by Mike.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this evening for this city council meeting. We are thankful this day for the moisture that we have received. We're thankful for the beautiful area in which we live, and we pray that thou wilt bless water and rain to sustain us going into this fall and through the winter. We are thankful for our city leaders, for the city council and the city administration and all the workers in the city. We pray for them, that thou be with them and help them to do the best that they can in the areas in which they serve. We pray for the police and the fire departments and ask you to bless them with safety and with the ability to do the things required there. We are grateful for all that we have from thee, for thy love and spirit. We pray that we can be kinder to one another as throughout the city. Help us to strive to look past differences and to be united as one. Again, we're grateful for all that we have. We pray for the military and for all those who are in the service of this great country, and pray that thou wilt bless them with safety and with peace and thy love. And we pray for these things and do it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will now move on to our agenda order approval. Are there any items that council would like changed from the published agenda? And if not,
Move to approve the agenda as printed.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, we'll go to council business.
Mayor, I wanted to just offer, first of all, thanks to city staff, particularly our Public Works Department and others that helped us with the ribbon cutting and the grand opening of the new animal shelter that we had last Saturday morning, and our pre-event we had Friday evening. I think it turned out very well, and I know there's been controversies surrounding this, but I can assure you that this is a welcome addition to our community. And already I've been out there Monday, and I was out there again today, and the volume of traffic already increased in that facility is amazing just as it's opened. And I don't know if it's the novelty, if it's new, but there's more people going there. There's more activity and interest in adoptions. And so I just wanted to thank everyone who participated. We had, I don't know, I didn't count, but probably 250 to 300 people there. And it was a very, very great turnout. So congratulations and thanks to everybody.
Thank you for all your work too.
Oh, you're welcome. I would also like to address an issue that I know we can't solve it here tonight, but I'd like to bring it up for at least to think about, and that's the closing of our main street. We seem to want to close our main street a drop of a hat. We close it for every conceivable activity. It's going to be closed this coming Friday for Paint the Town Red, and it's being closed the following weekend for the Iron Games. Thank you. Iron Games, one of those games. And I takes a great deal of time of our city employees, and not that we shouldn't have these activities, but I want us to sit down and explore which ones need to be on Main, and maybe can we close another street? Can we look at making an event on University Boulevard or some other location? I just want to make sure that we have some discussions about that. I mean, Certainly, there are some things that need to happen on our main street, and I understand that, but I just like to at least have that out there for a discussion purpose. And then also following up on that, and based on Chief Adams' comments of last week, I'd like to see what the next steps are in us moving ahead of and kind of addressing our nuisance ordinance and looking at that and seeing if we can't begin some dialogue about what we need to look at again to maybe perhaps tightening that or finding ways to make sure that we can enforce and deal with the issues we have, because that continues to be an ongoing issue, and I want to try and help our police department. So I'd like to move that forward. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
I did have one question on the bills,
Yes.
just about the towing expense. Looks like we've been towing a lot of cars with the construction. Do we get reimbursed for that at all, or?
Those would be for chip seal.
Oh, okay.
So
So
we'll
it's not
go-
on the main street
No.
stuff. It's on the city streets.
When we go to do road maintenance, a chip seal, we'll flyer the neighborhood first, and then there's inevitably a few cars there. We have a blanket contract for towing. We'll have those cars towed typically around the block, right, Ryan? Just so they're off the chip seal road, and then the folks can go get their cars. They don't have an impound fee or anything like that.
Okay. All right.
I think
Was
that's
just
what those are
curious.
for. Yeah.
And are there any other comments? So you know September 12th, I think that's that weekend, that's the half marathon. So
The 14th is the Saturday.
then it's the 14th.
Ah.
Whatever that Saturday is. That one.
14th.
Are you going to talk about the Rural Summit? Do you want to make them aware of that? Okay, you can do that then. All right. There are no other, we'll move to staff comments. Hey, Danny.
Good evening, Danny Stewart, Economic Development. Sit on the back row, I guess it comes back and gets you. The Rural Summit, you're probably familiar with that. It's happened at Southern Utah University for a long, long time. I think it's 35 years. And also the Economic Development Department has partnered in the past with the Chamber of Commerce for an economic summit. Those have been combined this year. They will be held next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, September 3rd and 4th at SUU. We will have the governor here, lots of people from all over the state addressing various topics centered around rural counties in the state, including economic development and many other things. The registration is available through the SUU website. It's suu.edu/URS. Anyway, it's a great event. We've got, I think, more people registered for it this year than we've ever had, and lots of exciting things going on with that event.
Can I just say one thing? I was just looking at some of the pre-conference adventures that they have out there and some of the adventure guides. It's just pretty amazing. I mean, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox is leading one of them. Our very own mayor is leading one of our pre-conference adventures. We've got Derek Miller from the Salt Lake Chamber and the former head of the economic
World
Go
Trade
Ed.
Center.
Yeah. So at World Trade Center, yes. But I mean, there's some really great individuals that are leading tours in our town as part of the adventure. So it should be a lot of fun, and I hope very informative as well.
It will be, and there will be a lot of people from all over the state who attend this. I mean, we'll see people from every corner of the state, and they'll come before the conference, and they'll stick around after the conference, and it gives us the opportunity to have some one-on-one time as well with, to discuss some important topics here.
But
Registration, the last I heard, is at over 320, and we've never had close to 300. at
Yeah,
that
I know
event.
this year it's outgrown the Great Hall, so most of the main events will be held in the Sharwin Smith Ballroom.
Mm.
So it will be a good event.
It'd be a great event.
All right.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nick Holt, airport manager. And I just wanted to come tonight and let you guys know or be aware that we've got a lease with BLM at our tanker base. They're the wildland firefighters. Also, they're an interagency working development with the Forest Service, and they've requested to build a Class 1 helipad at the airport.
Hmm.
This isn't a city-funded project. They're funding this on their own. It's on their lease that they currently have, and so there's no action item, but I did want to make you aware of it. And so it's going to allow them to be able to bring in the largest aircraft helicopters that they have and park those. So we're excited about that.
That's great. That's great news.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay. Are there any other staff comments? Okay, we'll move to the public agenda with the public comment portion. There is anyone here from the public that would like to address the council?
Carter Wilkie, just real fast, I wanted to talk about some clarification. I just looked up the half marathon is on the 7th,
Oh, well, there you go.
Saturday, because it's in conjunction with the Iron Games. Our Furry Friend Fun Run is on the 14th.
That was the
Yes.
difference,
Yeah.
yes. I knew
And
that.
then I'm also on the board and the committee for the 21st. We have another fun run in town, which is the suicide walk, the walk out. I can't remember the name of it, and that's embarrassing. I apologize. But the same one we had last year. This is the second
On the
annual.
21st, correct?
That one's on the 21st, and that one's at Main Street Park is where they will be.
Walk out of the darkness.
Walk out
or
of the
something.
darkness. Thank you. So we have 3 weekends of walking in a row, and then we can put away the shoes for the wintertime, hopefully.
Oh,
and
no, there's one on October 12th for the Alzheimer's Association.
There you go. So the fun
The
keeps
zombie
going.
run.
The
The zombie run,
run.
that's true too. Yeah. So the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st, we purposefully met together and we planned our walks around each other so that we wouldn't overlap for that.
We'll be
exact
very
reason.
healthy.
Yes. So
And thank you for coordinating together.
yeah, exactly. We met, and so okay, that was all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carter.
Thank you. I wondered about that when I went to put that on there.
Yeah, well, whoops. That's what happens when I didn't pull it up actually on my calendar. All right, if there's anyone else that wants to address the council? You just have to state your name so we have it for the record.
Sure.
Perfect.
Okay. Hi, my name's Maggie McMullen, and I am working with a few other people to organize a fundraiser on October 12th. It's called Freedom to Choose. There will be guest speakers Sam Brower, Ian Jeffs, Tanya Toole, who is the founder of Holding Out Help, which is up north in Draper, Utah. And the main objective of this fundraiser is to raise money for this organization called Holding Out Help. So they assist those transitioning out of the FLDS or polygamy. So they provide food, clothing, education. A lot of the time it's all of the above when these people come to them. So we just want to raise awareness and raise some money for this amazing organization. So I hope that you guys can come. If you have any questions, you can see me.
What will the fundraiser be? I mean, is this a dinner? Is this a dance? Is this a
so
fun
there's-
run? What is it?
Yeah, so thank you so much. There's going to be food that's going to be provided. Charlie's Southern Barbecue has actually agreed to provide half the food, and then Pisco Peruvian will be providing the other half. And then it'll be the guest speakers. There'll be music by local guitar performer John Yerby, and then we're going to be doing a silent auction. There'll be a $5 suggested donation at the door. So all of the funds, everything goes to Holding Out Help. It costs about $2,000 a year for them to rehab one of these individuals. So hopefully we can raise, my goal is to raise about $35,000. I think that's definitely doable, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
At $5 a pop, you're going to have a lot of people for
Well, my hope,
35,000.
my hope is to get to a lot of businesses
There you
and
go.
individuals ahead of time, which I've already started. But even though Cedar City's kind of a little town, it's a big town for just me, which is why I'm here.
Where's it being held, ma'am?
It's going to be at the Courtyard Marriott here in Cedar City from 4 to 7. It's October 12th, and I have flyers if anybody wants one. So thank you.
If
very
you leave
much.
one
Do you
with
wanna
us,
leave
we'll
one?
post it on our board outside.
Okay, sure. Leave it just.
Just
Yeah,
on the
just set
table,
on
it's
the
fine.
table.
We'll grab it. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? No? Okay. Then we will move on to our public agenda with the consent agenda first. Item number 1, approval of minutes dated August 7th and 14th, 2019. Approval of bills dated August 26th, 2019. Approved bills from Noble in the amount of $92,343.25 for stalls at Cross Hollow Arena.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Where's Larry?
He's out installing them right now, I'm sure. Yeah, he's got them marked. Little chalk lines everywhere, right?
Oh, well, the chalk lines would have gone away in the
Yeah,
rain,
that
so
that-
would be.
But
Okay,
that's
we'll move
good.
to the action agenda with item number 4. Consider final plat approval for the Canyons Loft PUD.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say Dallas Buckner go civil. So
Yeah,
were you
the,
gonna touch
the,
on letter
the
of
bank
credit?
got the letter of credit to us. We're okay there.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
All right. Item number 5, consider approval of a single event alcohol permit for the Elks Lodge Horseshoe Tournament on September 14th.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. You didn't have, at least they gave our report
I
last
can't
week on that one.
Sign
Yeah.
and talk at the same.
Okay. Item number 6, consider resolution amending the city's consolidated fee schedule. And
No
there,
changes to the proposed resolution. The main items were the airport and the police department fees.
Right.
Fingerprinting
Yes.
fingerprinting and there.
and the advertising.
And I think that this is fair, and I think that it's been properly vetted through your various advisory boards and governing boards. So I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. We'll start with Councilman Hartley.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. Item number 7, consider resolution revising fiscal year 2019-2020. That sounds so weird. Budget.
Jason Norris, come on down.
All right, Council, Jason Norris, Finance. So we've had a few concerns on the budget revision from last week. So I will address a few of those concerns on the items, and then I've got our golf course personnel and our aquatic center personnel who will kind of review some of the topics in their area. So I think I'm just going to go back through the list with the exception of the wrap tax because I don't want to rehash that. So again, we just want to be extra super transparent. Although if you attend all meetings, a lot of information is presented, but those who do not, or those 4 or 5 people tuning in on the internet, will get them updated as well. So in no particular order, so we had requests from staff for public safety for $12,750 to purchase digital speed signs for traffic control.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, there was a question last week brought up about having the PD look into flashing
Stop signs.
stop sign things. Did you guys get a chance to do that? Okay, thank you.
Yes, we don't have an update on that. So again, this is a brand new item we've never brought before council until last week. The reason we brought it forward is in the last month or two, we've had a lot of citizen concern about speeds and stop signs and yield signs and things of that nature in their neighborhoods. And we're not able to commit a full-time police patrol to every area of the city, but these are traffic controls that are a good start. And for $12,750, that's a reasonable approach at this time, in the opinion of the staff.
And they do store the data, is that correct? So the data can be reviewed?
You're going to have to come up
So
and say your name.
So sorry.
that's okay.
And if council remembers, we currently only have one of these.
Right.
Jimmy Roden Police Department. So they will store data, which is the beauty of these. So some of these complaints that come in, we can validate them by setting these signs out. They're totally mobile, so we can put them out on a street for a while, collect the data, see if there's really a problem.
Will you go through what kind of data? Because that sounds
Speed, so
scary
it'll
right
collect
now. not license plate,
No.
not
Not
car
gonna take your
type.
picture
No,
and say
no.
Jimmy was speeding.
This is not Big Brother watching. This is cars and their speed, just how many vehicles on the roadway and what their speeds are.
But not what kind of cars.
Correct.
Okay.
No.
But it does provide like time of day, like it might be
Correct.
3:50 in the afternoon on this Thursday afternoon or
Yes,
whatever.
sir. And
Yeah.
so that will help us obviously to determine if it's really a problem, and then we can do our enforcement efforts based on that data. So, and then we can move them to another area of town and do the same thing all over again.
Well, I think all of us can vouch the fact that the last 3 or 4 months, we've had numerous meetings where citizens have come forth with concerns about stop signs or speed, and it's not in just one location of town. There's several locations.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This gets us 3 of these.
Four.
Four. So
We'll
we
have a
will.
total of 5.
We'll start there, and if these are not effective, then we'll probably bring back more ideas down the road. Second item, $6,000 for the Opticom module that goes on a street light, which we did not know was going to be installed until last month or so out there on 56 and Cove Drive. So this is for our public safety to be able to get traffic lights to switch from red to green so that they can respond as quickly as possible to do their jobs. So that's $6,000. As I mentioned, we already purchased it. It would just simply be restoring $6,000 back into the streets budget, and they'll probably spend that on sidewalks or chip seal or something unrelated to public safety. We just run those types of items through the street department. Okay, so this one, I want to be a little bit sensitive in how I discuss it, but so that no one feels we're not being forthright, this is a huge expense. So for several years, staff and city administration have been working with the VA to put in a VA cemetery. This is not a new item in terms of the idea. It's many years in the making. It has the full support of staff and administration. We sold last year a piece of city property for $450,000-ish. We started the project with other city funds to put in a road to that property, and we used city personnel and time and equipment to dig that road. So we're out a piece of public property in terms of the city being able to use it for something else. And we've used city resources to dig said road. And we've also budgeted $70,000 or $100,000 in last fiscal year to start some of the infrastructure on that road. Since that time, I'm now repurposing all $450,000 from that property sale to the VA and another $100,000. All of this will run through the capital improvement fund, even though the original 450 is from a land sale. So we're going to take all those dollars and repurpose them in putting in the pavement and additional infrastructure to make a nice paved road to access that VA cemetery. It will not earn any revenue. It is not an investment. It will cost us $700,000 by the time start to finish, if you want to think of it in that context. But again, that has the full support of city staff and administration. So just want to clarify that for anybody that.
Also, when we sold the
Misunderstood.
property to the VA, we promised them we'd put the road in. That was a condition of the sale.
Well, that's kind of a big condition.
Yeah.
And that was fully disclosed during the sale and everything else to the council and to everybody else. We all knew that that was part of this agreement.
I do think that while there may not be direct return on investment, having a bona fide national VA cemetery in our community is a big deal. And I think it'll benefit us for years to come. And so I think it's a great thing, and I think the city should support this.
Okay. All right. So now for the other items that there's some concern about, I will first have Chris with the Aquatic Center. So as we kind of mentioned a few months back, we're starting to have some failure in the materials in the swimming pools. And we have reviewed the warranty with our vendor that installed those materials. And we've had a lot of questions from the public on if reinstalling those same materials is the right approach, if we should redo the pools in a different fashion, and what effect this $132,000 has on kind of our financial position. So Chris is going to try to address all that. Lucky guy.
Chris Hudson, Aquatic Center Manager. Councilman Phillips asked me to also give just a little bit of background on the timing of why we asked when we did. It came to our attention that there were some issues with the liner in about April. This is the end of April, beginning of May. Of course, the budget process had already been halfway along and almost all the way through. By this time, we contacted the company. They came to do the repair on what we thought was just a repair on a failure in the material. When they came in, they discovered quite a bit more. This was about a week before our big summer season starts. So we closed the pool for that week prior, got repaired what we could so that we could be up and running for the summer. In the meantime, we then began the discussion of how much do we have to do? What's the mitigation? What are our options? And then also, what's the lead time on material? The company is out of Italy, and so we are at the behest of storms and boats and all of that stuff as far as when the materials can get to us. So that we didn't discover all of these problems, all of the failure in the material until basically the end of May, right before you would have voted on the budget for the year. So we were not able to bring that in the budget process. That's why we said, okay, what we're going to do is get our ducks in a row, figure everything out, and then bring this to the council so that we can then try to get the money that we need for the project and get it done right. In that process, we've spoken with the company. Again, he mentioned we looked at the warranty. We have no wiggle room as far as labor goes, and so that's what they said that we would have to cover, although Murtha, the company that provides the vinyl, did say we are willing to put about $25,000 towards the labor. So in addition to warrantying the material, which they are paying the entire cost of, they're also adding $25,000 towards the labor. That leaves us with a balance in the labor cost of $132,000-3-ish thousand. They did say that number is finite. They will cover any extras and overages. So we will not have to provide more if, say, they come in and find a bunch of things wrong with their particular bid for repairs. What they are bidding to do is to take all of the material out in our large pool and completely replace it. Essentially, we would be getting a brand new pool for about $132,000-3,000. It's about $240,000 to $50,000 worth of work in that particular pool and in the other two pools. The other two pools will just be receiving new bottoms where the lane line markers are. So they won't be getting complete overhauls, but they will be getting some refurbishment as well. It was asked, could we just switch to a new material? And I spoke with CEM, the company that actually builds pools. They built our pool. And the gentleman I spoke to, I said, all right, when I'm looking at the process, I'm thinking it's going to be probably upwards of $1 million. He says, no, you're probably north of about $2 million to put gunite cement in, because we would have to dig the pools back per the new building codes. They can't just spray to dirt now. They have to dig it back, put walls in, then spray to it, then put plaster over the top of it. Plaster would be the finishing material, much like the vinyl is the finishing material in this particular pool. Plaster, aggregate, and tile are the main finishing materials for pools if you do concrete. And he said that you would not find any company that would warranty those materials for longer than a year. So, and if it's tile, it's typically only 90 days, and that's only on the labor. So if we were to switch to that, not only would we be spending about 2 million to excavate and do that, we would also only have a 1-year warranty at maximum on the finished material. Murtha's bid is to replace all of the material in the one and select material in the other two, but they would be issuing a new warranty for those vinyls. Their warranty, I believe, is 10 years on that finished material.
Would that extend the warranty on what they're not replacing?
I don't believe so. I believe that any material that's left there, the warranty would stay the same.
Don't they renew and extend the warranty on the stainless steel components?
I believe they do on the steel siding.
That's 25 years.
Yes, that was in the bids there.
Chris, where they don't replace the hole in the other two pools, do we run any risk of where they are seamed or where one butts up to the other? What is the risk in that kind of situation?
From my understanding of the installation process, no. Mainly because in the lap pool, they will have to redo the entire floor anyway, because each of those lanes hits on a bottom piece of material. So they'll have to replace it all anyway at that particular moment.
There's nothing that comes up the sides?
That's the stainless steel, and they are re-upping the warranty on that. In the outdoor pool, that would be the only place we would see, because again, they're only doing that length down that direction. So there would be one seam that would meet with the old material. I believe that the material will be warranted, but again, any labor would not be warranted in that.
Can you go through the timeline for how long it would take them to do the repairs?
Yes. So the first thing we were wanting to get them to do is the lap pools. We've actually started the ball kind of rolling because just the lap pool, we would be able to do that out of our operating budget. It will put us over, but we are able to pay for it. But we also have the swim teams that are going to be needing that lap pool this season. We're hosting region swim up at our pool, so that will need to be done. And so we've started that process. That's about a 5-day repair. Many of you have seen the advertisements. We're already going to be closing the lap pool for about a week. It's September 3rd, and we're hoping before September 11th, but that's the day that we've been given as kind of the final we're done day. So if they get it done faster, obviously we'll get it open sooner. The leisure pool would be closed for 26 working days, which is 6 days a week. So we'd be looking about 4 weeks plus a little bit, maybe. So 5 weeks possibly total that we would be closed in that leisure pool. That of course has some benefits and drawbacks. It is a slow season for us when school comes in, and this is nice before the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. If we get it done now, that's actually a slower time for us. So we would be minimizing any losses. But in addition to that, there is some labor savings as well, because we will not have the lifeguard staff that will be lifeguarding during that time as well. So there's some savings, some losses on both sides. But it does provide us an opportunity to get it done during a slow time of the year.
So help me understand, if this company is out of Italy and we haven't approved this yet, how in the world do we get the materials? Do they come from some other place?
So they ship them out of their factory in Italy. Once it's approved, we let them know and they begin shipping. They're just ramping back up from their holiday. I guess they take a month off in Italy. And so in September, they're just getting started. But that we would be looking about a 3 to 4 week lead time is what we'd be looking at. So what will happen is we will close the lap pool, and then it would be about 3 to 4 weeks beyond that we would be looking to do this. So around the 1st of October, somewhere in there. If they can get it to us faster, great. If they can't, we're kind of at the behest of when it comes, which is another reason why we'd like to do it as soon as possible so that we can get the process going and we don't run into the Thanksgiving, Christmas season.
I think Chris indicated that with the lap pool in particular, if the budget adjustment were not to be approved, they would pay for the lap pool out of their operational accounts. So they've already pre-ordered that material.
Yeah. And that one is coming via plane. We received word just yesterday. So that one's coming a lot quicker. The other one, I believe, is on a kayak, and there's some dude paddling really fast. So
the proverbial slow boat from Italy.
Yes.
The other question I would have, and I don't know, I'm sure you've explored this, but maybe you could share with us, is in the 9 years since this has all been operating and running, how have materials changed or technology has improved, or has it?
That's a good question. So of course they're always trying to make a better product. We've actually in recent years there's been a lot of advancements in PVC plastics. They haven't mentioned anything as far as advancements in the main liner. That doesn't mean there isn't advancements. I imagine there might have been, but they haven't mentioned that. However, in the material they use for markings, they have made some significant advancements in the way it's applied and in how it goes on, so that there's no longer that there's a significant reduction in risk of it failing the way that we saw in the photos last week, where it bubbles and gets rigid. Now they actually put enough solvent in it that it just stays liquid and it comes in a bucket, and they paint it on. And that paint actually has a lot of dye in it as well. So it actually dyes the main liner material also. So were there pieces to be able to come off, when they peel it up, you still have a black, dyed material underneath. So you're not losing your markers just because you might have a flake or two. They didn't mention any flaking, so I don't know if what the longevity of it is. I do know it is new as of within the last 3 years, because 3 years ago is when they repaired the old, when they did the first repair, and that repair is what failed in that particular moment. But I imagine they've learned a lot in that time, because it sounded like we weren't the only ones that had that problem at the time.
Do we have any guarantee or any way of knowing that if this is approved and we order this liner, can we make sure that it's not been sitting into a factory for 5 years waiting to be shipped somewhere?
Yeah, so this material they did say will be shipped directly from their factory, which is where they produce it. I believe you're referencing the material that we received beforehand. That was from one of their authorized installers, which is CEM. They are here locally in Utah. They're their contracted distributor in Utah, which means if you want Murtha, you can't go to any other pool maker in Utah to get it. You have to go through CEM. CEM is large. They did that aquarium up there in Salt Lake and whatnot. They do a lot of pools and they do a lot of work. So they have very large stores of their vinyl on hand. Murtha is a distributor. That's all they do. So their material is constantly being shipped out. And they did specifically tell me via word of mouth that it is coming from the factory. We would not be using a third party supplier for this.
And Chris, could you also just maybe clarify for me that if this expenditure of $133,000 or plus minus 1,000 or two, if this lasts 8-10 years, whatever we hope it can last, what is the normal maintenance cost of upkeeps of 4 to 5 pools? And I mean, I'm just trying to see if this is relevant or if this is extravagant.
So about 8 to 10 years, if you're looking for plaster, is when you're going to be replacing plaster. I did get a specific quote on just plaster finishing. That was about $200,000 to replaster all the pools if we paid the $2 million to replace the pools. So that's in addition to the, to that would be $200,000 about every 8 to 10 years to be doing some replastering. Tile finish, which is the most expensive finish, you'd be looking at, if your tile is the right kind of quality, maybe 12 to 15 years, but there would be lots of mitigation in the process. You're going to have tiles break. You're going to have a few of them come out that you can then replace. But that would be more of an ongoing cost, because as those break, you're going to be replacing them. Of course. And then an aggregate finish, which is basically, if you've ever seen kind of a cultured marble type thing, that's what an aggregate finish is. It's halfway between, kind of tile and cement and plaster. It's a little bit stronger. Our hot tub is made out of that aggregate finish, but it discolors and will eventually need to be repaired also, about 12 to 15 years on that also. So are we expending and that is actually quite a bit more expensive than plaster as well. I believe he said, he didn't give me an exact number, but he said you'd be looking at about, a third more ish. But that was all kind of offhand. So I don't know if we can count on that number for sure.
Sure.
But so if you look at it in terms of, are we replacing vinyl every 10 years? If the vinyl is under warranty, which it would be within that 10-year time period, because we will be getting a new warranty issued with
Will
it.
we have one that we can frame and keep track of?
Correct. Yes, we will frame it and post it on the aquatic
Perfect.
center wall with in a nice frame. But yes, we will be getting a new one written up for that. And in that case, if it's under there, the material would be warranted. And again, we would just be fronting the labor. There are also options to mitigate that. For example, Mirtha does certify people to repair this material. It's very conceivable we could take a maintenance person that works for the city, send them to get certified to repair this vinyl that can mitigate these things over the course of those 10 years. But then also, if we had to get new material, that person could do the majority of the work themselves. Yes, it would take their time, but it's a feasible option.
Do we get to go to Italy?
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Who
But
wants to volunteer to go to Italy?
Yeah.
but so again, I mean, I'm not saying that is
Sure.
exactly what we could do, but they do certify independent repair specialists. That was actually the person that came to do our repair in May. He used to work for CEM, but he got certified independently, and now he does that, and he just lives up in Salt Lake. He's just a repair guy. That's what he does. And so it is conceivable that we could have one of our own people certified to repair that. And if that's the case, then that could mitigate the labor costs significantly as well. So there's lots of options. Looking at where we are, my personal recommendation is that we just continue with the Mirtha material where the pool's built, it's engineered, it's already in, and where when you look at the numbers, it actually comes out, even if we are repairing every 10 years, it comes out a little tiny bit better than if we were to change to a plaster or some sort of concrete
That was
material.
my question, trying to see where this leads us.
Yeah, I do believe we will come out better in the long run financially if we stick with Mirtha and we continue on this path.
There's also an issue in the way the leisure pool is constructed with the little tower where you get dumped water on, and then there's those yellow lumps that kids go and do belly flops on and
Yeah.
slip and slide all over. I don't
The
know
mounds.
if you'd be able to do that with a plaster finish.
Mhm.
I don't know how that would work for
Might get
kids.
some pretty rough
But,
tummies.
yeah, well, that might have to change some behaviors, or we would probably have to modify what we have there.
Yeah. So there would be some significant, discussion into that if we were to do that. It basically boils down to we would actually probably have to hire an engineer to redo a lot of things. And then as soon as you do that, of course, you're taking money through the roof. So
Mayor, could I hear what the reason for the failure was? What caused this failure in such a short period?
Mirtha is not sure. They seem to think it might be just the chemicals. The question, sorry, I don't know if they heard over the microphone. The
I was
question
gonna say, do
was,
you want to go through the question?
yeah, the question was, do we know the reason for the failure in the material? Mirtha's was scratching their head saying, we don't know why it's not holding up like it should. They seem to think it might be chemical usage. However, when I spoke with CEM, he specifically stated, that's weird. We've had Mirtha in very, very caustic environments, much more than you would have, and it holds up just fine. So he seemed to think that maybe there was a defect in the material that was installed. And who knows, it may have been a bad batch of material that they had in store, and there you go. So they're seeming to think that it might even last beyond the 10 years. That's actually not as good for us, because if it goes outside of the warranty, then we actually have to pay for material when we replace it. But at the same time, the question was, what would the material cost be if we had to pay for it? In this particular instance, the material cost was just about $90,000 for materials.
That's the big pool, and then the other.
Yeah,
two
the big
pools as
pool
well.
plus the floors of the other two pools. So about that much. So if we were to do,
50,000 if we had to replace.
yeah, if we were doing it all currently at the current market prices, it was again about $250,000 for those materials and labor.
Does the council have any other questions for Chris?
No, but the history helps. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, may I make one comment?
You had a public hearing on this last week. Yes, make your comment.
Had another meeting. Good evening, Tom Jett. I was the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Board when we approved the aquatic center 10 plus years ago. And Jerry Sherritt was our mayor at that particular time. And I think all of us attempted to be very diligent in looking at what are the best costs. We had some people in the community that were professional pool makers and at one time urged that we not go with the Mirtha. They suggested we go with the gunite, if I recall the exact word. We were sold on the Mirtha based on the fact that we would not have the maintenance costs that we would with the gunite. And so we said, well, it's going to cost more, but we're going to save money because of the future maintenance costs on putting this package together. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I appreciate Mirtha kicking in an extra $25,000 for the labor, but someplace we failed because it was my understanding that there was a lifetime guarantee. And some, and if we're paying, there doesn't seem to be the guarantee. And I'm not sure what caused the failure. Chris doesn't know. Mirtha doesn't know. But it's probably something we want to know because this is a substantial amount of money that we put in. We have to fix it. It's imperative that we fix it. It's an incredible asset to our community. But for future knowledge, I think it's something that we need to figure out what is causing the failure of this. And so there's been several people. It's not Chris's job to have gone back, 10 years or 12 years that he wasn't here. We've had, I think, a few different managers of the aquatic center over the previous past. And so I guess in closing, it's important that we fix it, but I think it's probably more important that we figure out how we got sold this package, not understanding exactly what was covered. And because I believe we paid almost $1 million for these pools, if I'm not mistaken. And the gunite was going to be substantially lesser, but the maintenance was going to be substantially more. And that's how we justified it as a community in pushing this forward. So I hope no one takes this as anything negative. It's just this a great learning opportunity for us as a community, all of us, to help in all, from golf course to aquatic center to whatever we're involved in. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you.
Chris Hudson, Aquatic Center Manager. One thing that Jason and I had talked about that we did want to make sure everybody was aware of, just like when you dig into your car, when we dig into this, there may be other problems that we discover, and we hope that's not the case. But if that is the case, there would, of course, be more mitigation that would have to happen. And we do, Mirtha did say that they would hold off and let us do any mitigation we had to do. It wouldn't cost us any more, but that they would have to hold off until we got whatever mitigation done. So, for example, if we found severe concrete issues that we had to repair, we would have to get those things done before they could continue to repair the materials. We just don't know if those things exist until we dig into it and we find out. I don't think there is, based on what I've seen and based on the way that the pool is shaped. Typically, you can see those kinds of things coming. We don't have any real buckling issues in the pool area that we are aware of that we can see. So I believe we're not going to find that. However, I just wanted to make the council aware that that could be something else as we dig into this that we would have to look at and make sure that we addressed before we continued. That way we had a pool that could last hopefully another 20, 25, 30 years.
Chris, I have one last question.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what would the admissions and the usage of the aquatic center was last fiscal year?
As far as admissions numbers, I don't have those right off the top of my head. Last fiscal year, we did have.
I think Jason does.
Okay.
It's all teeny tiny print.
You didn't say who you were.
Jason Norris, everyone's favorite neighborhood finance director. So we had a request to actually do some analysis on how much we lose per person that goes to the pool. So that's why I have this, and that's why Chris had given me those attendance numbers. So I've done this on a fiscal basis. Chris has done that, the member use on a calendar year. So in 2018 calendar year, we had 47,000 members use the facility, which are folks that own annual passes. And then on top of that, we had 52,000 daily pass sales. I'm sorry, that's 2017. I lied. 2018.
Two numbers again.
I will. Sorry, I got to get on the right line. I made this really small. 2018 calendar year, 58,222 member uses and 50,031 day passes. So the total users was 108,253. So the facility runs an operational deficit of $384,348 in fiscal 2018. So you lose $3.55 per patron. If you were going to run that as a business, you probably should not do that.
Chris Hudson, Aquatic Center Manager. I do want to also point out that's just those purchasing to use the facility in that regard. However, anybody that has rented rooms and is bringing in large groups for anything like that, we do not track that entrance number. And so any room rentals or any number of people using it for large events, we don't track those.
The numbers,
there
but you
is-
track the dollars.
We track the dollars of the sales, but
Yeah.
we don't track the number of users that come in. So there is actually probably a substantial amount more that would be using the facility, and that there is a payment method being taken, but it's hard. It's way more convoluted and harder to track.
Gotcha.
So like Bittman's karate class that he attends on Tuesday nights, we don't track that as a use, although it's a valuable use, but yeah, it's not tracked. So you bet.
Yeah.
So 108,253 calendar year 2018. Also, is our outdoor pool, what material is that done in?
So our outdoor material is also the Murtha vinyl.
And we've had some repairs there in the drainage. The hot tub, that one's not vinyl, or is that as
That one
well?
is not vinyl. That
There
one
you
is
go.
a cement.
I don't think
a
we've
cement.
fixed that yet. So
Other than just basic maintenance, we haven't had to fix it yet.
There are other questions for these two related to this? No? Okay. Thank you, Chris. You can
And
continue,
I'll
Jason.
emphasize this is an aquatic environment full of chemicals and water and humidity. And all of these materials, whether metal or ceramic or vinyl or whatever they may be, they are going to deteriorate. And we make an effort to set aside funds for the maintenance of a very harsh operating environment, from the pool floor up to the chillers up on the roof that are processing humid air. This is just the nature of this facility, and we will constantly be in a maintenance cycle to keep it up and running.
Do we have comparative numbers for 2017? That 108,000, is there a number that's comparable?
Calendar 2018 was 108,253. Calendar 2017 was 99,255. Calendar 16 was 100,301. Its very first year back in 2011 was 119,746. So it was kind of popular that year.
It's a new
And
kid on the block.
It only lost $1.13 per person.
Let's strive
For
for that.
shiny and new.
Oh, yeah, that's- volume's up.
There you go. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions
Oh,
on,
thank you.
Not on that.
on
Thank you.
that? Okay. All right. Kit, we're going to do a little presentation on the golf course. If Steve and Jared will come up, and we just basically want to revisit our whole process on golf course irrigation. So as I mentioned last week,
Don't tell.
we're requesting $800,000 to complete phase 4 of the irrigation system. So earlier this year, we allocated funds to purchase basically all the pipe and sprinklers and things of that nature for phase 4. This is going to be our actual installation.
on.
Oh, maybe it's not going to be a presentation.
Is this the anomaly or is this pretty much?
Well, I've seen the red light on, I've seen the red light off.
Which is what we replace it.
Here it's on, it's flickering.
You can see it not a lot.
I don't see it. Oh, where's it?
Well, it turned back
The
on.
light should turn from red to green, but I can't get it to do it.
Waiting in suspense.
Yeah. On this side, it shows it comes on and then goes back on.
Yeah, the red light flickers here and then.
Call our IT guys.
Maybe we need a budget revision for new electronics.
Oh, don't worry, that'll be coming. We went through the RFP today. So.
No.
Try to hit the power button. Will that make it explode?
You might need another budget revision.
Yeah.
Reach up there, big man.
It's not doing it.
I don't know if I dare.
If you climb on a chair and reach up there, you're doing it on your own free will.
What if I'm injured on the job in my hazardous position here?
Jared, just do it verbally.
That just shut something off.
Oh, looky there. It turned green.
Turn green.
Yeah.
Stop pushing
Hey,
stuff, kid.
Again.
I'm just going to do a one push self-destruct button.
Yeah, well, it's lighting up.
The light came on.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right, I'll get out of the way now.
Good evening, Jared Barnes, Director of Golf. I've got my trusty coworker, Steve Carter, our golf course superintendent here. Jason asked me to kind of just do a hopefully fairly quick overview of the state of our front nine irrigation. Currently, what we've done the last 5 years to get to the point we're at and what we need to do now to complete it. So our current front nine irrigation is 57 years old. It is, and I think you all have seen this before, but this is what's in the ground. It's 1 inch metal pipe. It's rusted out. I believe Councilman Phillips called it, said it looked like a flute when I brought it in at budget time. So I'll be coming over there. So this is what's pressured up with water on our entire front nine. The pump, we pump from the cemetery, from the well over there. The pump to keep our front nine pressurized kicks on about every 10 minutes all day long. So that's how much water at somewhere we're losing into the ground all day long, every day when it's pressured up. And I'm hoping we can.
And wear and tear on the pump.
Exactly. And power, you know, everything. We don't need to be online. We're just pulling the file. Down in there. Oh boy. Should be over. USB drive right there. USB drive G. And then Jim Ruel course maps. Yeah. So just for visual sake, and we talk about, we brought in this piece of pipe. This piece of pipe was taken out, I believe, in early May, off number one. This week, to kind of show what's happening underground, that's this piece of pipe right here in my hand, pressurized with water. So that's what our irrigation system looks like under the ground. Clearly, almost daily, we have visible leaks that Steve and Austin spend the majority of their time digging and fixing. I would say probably 90% of their time is spent repairing irrigation. I took, with this current state, and honestly, aesthetics is probably for me the third reason to do this, the aesthetics of our golf course, but we do own a golf course and we'd like it to look nice. I took 2 pictures last night at 5:00 p.m. One up, Steve. Yep. Right. Nope. Those 2 images. This was last night at 5:00. This is 2 different spots of our front nine. So that's looking backwards from number 3 green. That's just as good as we can do right now. The next one is looking backwards from number 6 green. Also, with the current state of our irrigation system, that's just all we can do. That's when it's running and running well. We pump, as I stated, we pump from the cemetery up instead of 2-inch laterals like we should have. We have 1 inch. They're rusted. They're breaking. We can't get pressure up to that. So if you were out there at 3 or 4 a.m. when we were irrigating, you would see that there's just no pressure. So water savings cost the effective use of staff's time in just constant repair. We came to staff and the council at the time back in 2014, my second year here, and together we developed a master plan. We said, hey, we know this is a big project. We got a lot to do. And so we basically working with an irrigation guy up north who is the state's foremost irrigation expert. We developed kind of this master plan. I don't know that we clicked on the right thing there, Steve. Or not, the file's not open anymore. No, the Jimmy Well course maps. Master plan right there. So this has basically been our golf course irrigation repair Bible for the last 5 years. We've been working on this. Phase 1 was a new irrigation design. That's where you start, is you design the new system. Real quick, Steve, you want to click over just to show them? Try to leave that up if you can, and then just click on the design. So new irrigation design looks something like that. He did the entire 18 holes, even though we're only doing the front 9. But just to kind of show, I believe, December 31st, 2015 is the date on that. So that was 4 years ago. So back to the master plan, just to kind of show. So we replaced outdated Rainbird satellite controllers with the new Toro control system. We replaced irrigation. The irrigation has been replaced around the greens. That's why if you were out there last night at 5 o'clock and you saw what I just showed you, the greens are phenomenal. That was done in 2016, I believe. It was done with the same HDPE piping that, if funded, we will use on the entire golf course. It's a seamless transition to the green stuff is good and done. So that was done in 2016, and we've had 0 problems, and the greens have been fantastic, which quite honestly is why I believe our numbers and our rounds and our revenue still look quite well, even with some of the stuff we deal with there. So anyway, that's all done. Phase 2, we upgraded the existing irrigation pumps with new control panels. That helps us communicate better with our new central control system. That's all been done. Phase 2 is completely done. They were funded some by capital improvement funds, and a lot of it was funded by RAP tax funds. Phase 3 has been completely funded already, both between RAP tax fund and the golf course fund balance. Phase 3 is the addition of an irrigation pond and pump station. The location has changed from 2014 when we did this plan. Our irrigation designer suggested we go higher up, further east. Instead of around 1, 8, and 9, it's up by number 3 and behind number 7 green. That way we're just irrigating more downhill. We've got, rather than irrigating uphill. So the pond will be built so that, similar to the way we do on the back 9, currently on the back 9, we pump water from the cemetery well into the pond on number 13. And then the pump station there at hole 13 is how we irrigate the back 9. We could never get water from the cemetery well up to, say, 15 tee box. It would just, we couldn't get it up there. So we'll be doing the same thing on the front 9. So the pond will be built as an irrigation water storage tank, for lack of a better term. We'll pump into that and then we'll irrigate out of that. Like I said, that has been completely funded through RAP tax and the golf course fund balance. And we'll be getting significant help from Jeff Hunter and his crew in helping us dig that pond. We're using city resources and staff wherever possible on that. Because phase 3 was funded, we started down the road of completing phase 3, and this is where we ran into some problems in that we realized phase 3 and phase 4 don't really work as standalone phases. They really need to be done together. A perfect example is we went all the way down the road with the power company, because we'll have to get power out to the pond for the pump house. And we were all done and ready to go. And then they told us, well, you've got to turn it on right away, or else they're going to charge us. I can't remember the dollar amount, but it was so much per month that was crazy. So we put a stop to it, because that's silly to be paying for power that we're not using. So phase 4 is what's left. It's putting everything in the ground and completing the project. At the time of the budget in the spring, Paul had worked really hard and it helped us apply for a grant. The grant, we were allowed to apply for half of the funds, if I remember correctly, for the project, or roughly half of the funds. So we were approved the other half of the funding in waiting till we found out about the grant. The grant did not come through. So that's why I'm here right now, and I'll let Jason take over from there. But that's basically where we're at, is we have the funding for all the materials. If this is something that we're going to complete, we need to get the rest of it funded so we can put out RFPs and get on somebody's schedule. It's a big job. There's probably 3 or 4 companies in the state that will bid on it, maybe even from out of state. They estimate it being a 100-day project. We will not be down at all as far as golfing. We'll be able to golf right through the project. You may come up on a hole, and today this par 4 is going to play as a par 3 because they're doing some work, but we'll be open all the time. Another side note to that is just our daily rounds. About 80% of our daily rounds are just 9-hole rounds. So my guess is during the construction phase, we'll try to push most of our rounds out the back 9, just to allow the golfers not to have to deal with it and the company not to have to deal with as many golfers. Anyway, any questions?
Jared, is that 80%? Do you think, is that a time issue more than anything? Do you think? I can't imagine it's a.
Yeah, I think, a lot of our play before, say, 1:00 is retired folks. They're annual pass holders. Your brother, right? They come out, they get in 9 holes in the morning.
Yeah.
Some of those guys, people play 18, but and then another big chunk of our busy time is, say, after about 4:00. People get off work, want to get in 9. Saturday rounds tend to be more 9 holes than Sunday rounds. Sundays actually become, revenue-wise, probably our biggest day. Saturday golfer is there to play a quick 9 before soccer games or honeydews or whatever. Sunday golfer did all that the day before, and they're kind of there for the day. So we get that changes a little on Sundays, but.
Can I ask a question? You indicated that it wasn't the top thing was the aesthetics. I understand, because the golf course has to make revenue and it also has to function well as a golf course. But aesthetics are important.
They're very important. So
I'm interested to know, with the advent of this irrigation system, clearly we're going to save some water. You're estimating 25 to 30%. Is that based just on professionals telling you? Is that just based on you?
We can pull that up. Do you want to say something, Steve? Or
Yeah, go ahead.
No, so originally,
You still have to get over to the microphone and say your name.
Steve Carter,
Thanks, Steve.
golf course superintendent. The first study we had done was in 2006, and it was done by a man named Dale Winchester. And at the time, he was saying conservatively 25 to 30% of the water. Since Jim Ruel, who is the man who was designed our irrigation system, the numbers that he has is right now we run about 1 million gallons a night when we water, and that's if we water everything our standard time. Putting the new system and upgrading the piping, that's going to take our water usage down to about 849,000 gallons. So we're going to save about 150,000 gallons a night.
A night.
That's if we water everything all the time. My plan is that's not how we're going to water. The greens don't need water every single night. Certain parts of the golf course are wetter than others, so we can make adjustments for there. But so the 150,000 gallons per night last year, and this is where we get the savings. Last year we watered 110 days, 110 nights. I took that 16 or the savings per night, times it by the 110 days, and it came out to be about 16 million something gallons of water.
Almost 17.
Yeah, almost 17 million gallons of water for that year. If we were to upgrade the system, if we would have upgraded the system last year, it would have saved us that much money or water. That came out to be about 52 acre feet of water. So every just over 6 years, we would save 1 full year of water every 6 years. And so those are the water that's the water savings.
That's significant. I guess.
Yeah, it's huge.
Do we have any other measures that we've even considered or talked about in terms of water conservation out at the golf course?
We have. I've talked with Doug before. The way that the course is designed, I'm not saying that there's not places that we could pull turf out and implement another form of landscape. But the way the course is designed now, we really don't have a lot of, just area to cut out.
Mm-hmm.
We're pretty small acreage wise, golf course, compared to other golf courses as we are now. The one thing that we have tried to do, and I've kept record of our water usage from the day one, so 15 years. And if you go back and look at that, we used to use about 145 million gallons of water a year. And now we're down to like 110, 120. We've cut back just by, hey, we don't need to water tonight. We're going to cut it off. The course is going to be a little drier, but like right now, there's just places out there that are saturated.
Right.
And there's places that look like number 3 and number 6. And in order to keep those somewhat green, you have to water the rest of the course.
Yeah.
And so this is going to give us the ability to get the water exactly where it needs to be. We'll be able to maintain areas instead of holes. We'll be able to go out and just say, hey, that head, we can turn it down without having to turn down 3 other heads that are tied to the station, which is the way it is now. If you go to turn down an area, you're going to turn down the same dry spot just up the fairway from it. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's important to know that. And I would just urge us that we should try and look at water conservation anytime we can, but not at the sake of not having a golf course that people want to go on because it's attractive and looks like it's a place you want to spend your time and with your friends and family.
Another thing we had to mitigate before we did the water was the prairie dogs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I
that was a big issue.
Yeah. And I was here when we mitigated the prairie dogs. I wasn't here before that, but I'm assuming part of the reason we're in this situation with this irrigation system was because of the prairie dog situation. People weren't really excited about putting money into the facility until that was mitigated. So
let me just clarify. So what we're doing with the budget revision, we're backfilling for a grant we didn't land.
Correct.
Is that the sum and substance of the backfill?
Yeah, we're fully funding the rest of the project. That's phase 4.
Yeah.
We wanted the grant to do that. The grant told us no.
Okay.
There was 111 applicants. I think they awarded 44, 45 of them.
But this process has been going on for some 5 years now.
2014 is when we started. Yeah.
Okay.
Which was
And
the
we
year.
started prairie dogs first.
Yeah. Which was the year we mitigated the prairie dogs and which has been fantastic. Rounds and revenue.
Oh yeah.
we didn't see, my first couple of years, we didn't see a whole lot of Shakespeare people at our golf course. They would go to St. George and play golf in the morning, and then they would come up. We see a ton of them now. They love it. We get people all summer who we're the first city out of the heat, right? So St. George, Mesquite, Las Vegas, all summer long, that's stuff we didn't see when we had the prairie dog issue. So,
Chris, did you have a question?
You have to come up to the microphone.
You have to come up
and
to the
say your
mic,
name.
but I saw you raise your hand a couple of times, so.
come on up.
I just wanted
But you
to
still have
add,
to
my
say
name's
your
Chris
name.
Dahl, and I
Perfect.
wanted to add to the discussion, to put in the context of the quantity of water that they want to use, that they think we're going to be using, amounts to watering a 63-acre hayfield. So that's in context. So we've got a lot of hayfields out there, and so I'm not trying to say we shouldn't conserve water, but we can put it in context. It's 63 acres of hay is all our golf course is using for water. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Appreciate
A
it.
little point of context.
Thank you. And to add to that, I believe our acreage is about 120? 105. So, which is small. I've worked at 3 other golf courses. I've never been at a golf course with less than 130. So when Steve says we don't have a lot of irrigated turf, we really don't in comparison. So,
All right. Thank you.
Are there more questions for Jared, Steve?
Thanks for putting that together.
you bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, welcome
Save that
back.
pipe.
Yeah.
Jason Norris. Okay, so on the decision-making side, all of these projects, you as a council have the authority to approve all or some or none of the projects. We do, in terms of the pool, we have the Iron County School District. They put in $130,000 a year with the expectation that they will be able to have high school competition. So if we don't move some of that project forward, that's going to be an issue. The golf course, we have the option to not approve the installation of phase 4. We have already began purchasing components to be installed, pipe, sprinkler heads, pipe fittings. Many years ago, we spent $25,000 to have master plan done. We've put in software and irrigation control system, smarter system than just flipping on the pump and pouring out water. But we can hold off on completion of the project. Simply means water pours out of the perforated pipe underground, and the course is in the same playing condition it's in now, which is fine. And obviously staff spends more time digging holes and repairing pipes. So that's okay. We can get by that way. But also at the same time, we're 5-6 years into seriously addressing this issue. This infrastructure was put in 50 or 60 years ago by city council members and finance people. So when they buried those pipes in the ground, that meant someone at some point was going to have to replace that infrastructure, whether it's a building, a road, a bridge, a merry-go-round. Someone at some point has to do that maintenance. We've approached that as that's one of our strategic goals, is to address that. A nice thing is saving the water. So,
Mr. Norris, do I understand, though, that through this 5-year process, you've sort of been working on a financial plan to sort of mitigate and deal with these issues as they came before the city in each of these phases?
yes, thanks for bringing that up. So this in totality is going to be what, over $2 million to, we've worked on pumps, we've worked on irrigation, we worked on the map. And yeah, when we started getting serious about this in hand with the prairie dog issue, we said we don't really think we want to go bond for over $2 million to do irrigation. That's not our number one priority at the time. What we said was let's break this in phases and pieces, and let's see if we can work on this over time and knock this out without bonding for it. As with all of our recreation opportunities, none of them generate profit. That's the reason why we as a community subsidize our recreation opportunities. And then we as staff, we use pricing to regulate use of all of our recreation facilities and to get some cost recovery in the operation. So, yeah, thanks for that question.
Thank you.
Are there other questions for Jason?
No.
Are there?
Thanks for making provision for these things. Planning for them.
Does anyone like to make a motion?
Do we want to do these all as one separately? How would the
I think we ought to move
it on one?
I would make a motion to approve the resolution revising the budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Adams.
Aye.
You're next.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't know which direction you were going, Mayor.
Start with Adams. We go to
Sorry.
your Councilman
Sorry, a little
Phillips.
slow there. Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, then if we start with Councilwoman Hartley, it goes the other way.
There's a lot of ways you can go around.
I've never done it any other way than that. All right, item number
Oh,
8,
boy.
discuss plans and financing for Glacier Ice Rink.
Some people's children.
One comment with the Tom Jett. One comment with the golf course. 52 acre feet a year. That's huge.
It is.
That's a great aquifer extension.
Mhm.
The power savings are going to be several,
Equally.
probably going to be close to 7,000 or 8,000 minimum a year. Based, I recall a number 35 cents per that the water department did. 35 cents per 1,000 acres is what it. If I recall that to be correct, in my is what it costs them to pump it up, the electricity cost, and that's based on a higher aquifer. The deeper the aquifer, the deeper the well goes, the more it's going to cost. And so and if we ever lose that well that we're using, we're helping keep that aquifer alive. For that. So it's gonna be a good decision that you voted on tonight in the affirmative. It's an excellent decision for the taxpayer. It's unfortunate that we've got to this point and we haven't put the time and money into this in the past. But we're moving in the right direction today, and that's positive. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, now we're back to our financing.
Sorry. Thank you.
So I wrote a memorandum that I put in the council's packet, and we also published it on our electronic sites, so it's available to the public. But since the memorandum was finished about 3 hours ago, I'll just read it really quick, and it'll sum up what information we have to pass to the council. During last week's council meeting, the city council directed staff to solicit information from Zion's Public Finance related to Cedar City's options to bond for a contribution to the ice rink. Subsequent to the meeting, staff was asked to look at finance for the construction of the gyms as well. During conversations with Zion's Public Finance, they asked for the opportunity to show Cedar City what its potential savings would be if we refinance our existing water, stormwater, and general obligation bond for the aquatic center. So that's the subjects we'll deal with here. So the first topic is financing options related to the ice rink. Staley Recreation Management has asked Cedar City for a contribution towards the construction of the ice rink in the amount of $2,850,000. The city council asked staff to assume, for the sake of gaining information, that the city was going to provide the requested contribution. For the purpose of the discussion in this section, staff has assumed and asked Zion's Public Finance to show us what it would look like with current market conditions to bond for all of this or half of this contribution. There are some factors that can impact the results of the analysis. A bond sold on the market may tend to have a lower interest rate than a direct purchase bond. The timing of the sale of the bond may have an impact on the interest rates as they change over time. There are also more technical issues that our financial consultants with Science Public Finance would have to address in detail. But for the purpose of this analysis, we will look at current market conditions, principal amounts, interest, and total debt. If Cedar City were to bond for $2,850,000, our estimated bonding cost would be about $30,000. The bond would be sold in the principal market in the amount of $2,880,000. The true interest cost of the bond would be 2.84. I carried it out in the memo, but I'll stop at 2.84. And the maturity over a term of 20 years. Cedar City would pay $977,154.64 in interest. The total cost to repay the bond would be $3,857,154.64. The city's annual payment would be approximately $207,000 per fiscal year. If Cedar City were to bond for $1,450,000, our estimated bonding cost would be $30,000. The bond would be sold in the principal amount of $4,800,000. $1,480,000 with a true interest cost of 2.84% and a maturity of 20 years. The city would pay $501,929.98 in interest. The total cost to repay the bond would be $1,981,929.98. The city's annual payment would be approximately $106,000 per fiscal year. The city's finance director is providing an accounting of the city's capital funds. After deducting the amounts necessary to cover previously budgeted projects and the budget adjustments currently pending before the city council, there's approximately $4 million available in the city's capital funds. Once the council agrees on an amount that the city is willing to contribute to the development of the ice rink, city staff would recommend using capital funds rather than bonding for the ice rink. The approximate cost per fiscal year are rounded amounts. So the dollar amounts given above on the cost per year to repay the bonds are rounded amounts. They vary over time. The bonds that Zions Public Finance has looked at would be interest-only bonds until 2022. This would allow the city to retire the existing debt on this building, the parking garage, and the Heritage Theater before incurring the payment of the principal amount in these additional bonds. The next section is financing options related to the gyms and the ice rink combined. Cedar City received an estimate to build the gyms at the amount of $4.5 million. Staff has worked to see what it would cost to bond for the full contribution to the ice rink and the gyms, total of $7.35 million. With bonding costs, the city would be looking at a true interest cost of 2.21%. The bond would have a 20-year term. The city would pay $2,600,971.67 in interest over the term of the bond. The total cost would be $9,360,971.67. The annual payment would be approximately $500,000 per fiscal year. Staff also asked to see what it would look like if we just bonded for the cost of the gyms themselves at an estimated cost of $4.5 million. With all the bonding costs included, the city would look at a true interest cost of 2.21%. The bond would have a 20-year term. The city would pay $1,598,265.42 in interest over the term of the bond. The total cost would be $5,753,265.42. The annual payment would be about $307,000 per fiscal year. Again, these bonds are all adjusted, so we would have interest only for the first couple of years while we retired the bonds on these facilities down here. And those costs per year are approximations rounded up on the disclosure Science Public Finance gave us. The final section is some good news. Cedar City has outstanding bonds secured by user rates from stormwater and water. The proceeds were used to upgrade some of the applicable city infrastructure in water or stormwater. The principal amount of the bonds for water was $2.4 million. The principal amount for stormwater was $2.6 million. Cedar City also has a general obligation bond on the Aquatic Center and the principal amount of $5.3 million. Zions Public Finance has evaluated all three of the bonds. Each has different features, so refinancing would have some different implications for each. One example is that general obligation bond on the aquatic center has a federal subsidy that buys down the interest rate. Refinancing that bond would eliminate the federal subsidy. Zions Public Finance has told us that refinancing any of the three bonds would accrue savings to the city. It's staff's recommendation that we continue to watch the bond market and the interest rate market, and we would like to return to the council at the beginning of the calendar year, end of this calendar year, with a recommendation to refinance some or all of those bonds. That's all we know.
There's information that was requested last week.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
That's a lot of information.
Jason, what's the one of these that drops off in 2022? How much is, you do things very small, young man. I need my glasses to read this number.
What was that on?
What is the annual payment on the one that drops off in 2 years?
Isn't that the 980?
950?
Almost $1 million.
That's on all the.
I know it's
street
over
facilities.
900,000.
If it's over 900, I think it's like
Okay.
9.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't
thank
know.
you.
A lesson for tonight is, Jason, you should use bigger font.
I didn't know that was going to be on my pop quiz. My apologies. I failed
Sorry.
that one. I just know it's over 900,000 and under $1 million.
Yeah, you got a 90% anyway.
Okay. Are there other comments, questions the council has?
Well, no, just clearly from these numbers and this information that any contribution that we would make to the ice rink, I think, should be coming out of our capital improvement. We should not be bonding for it based on the numbers we're given today. It just doesn't make fiscal sense whatsoever to do that. So that's just a thought for me as we move forward in these negotiations and discussions with Staley Rec management.
Are there any other comments? Questions?
I am very concerned about the contract that we enter into. Not only the amount that we're committing, but the contract. And so I would love to begin that discussion, whether it's, well, without Tyler here, it makes no sense to do that, but I just really want to start getting down to the nitty gritty and who does what to whom.
Well, I guess maybe the other thing that I would agree with you, Councilman, and that's very important. And the other thing I would say that I would be interested in knowing as much detail as possible. And Dallin, I didn't know if you were prepared to speak tonight, and you may not be able to answer this, but if the city is going to make contributions to this project, whatever the amount of money, I want to know how it's going to be programmed. I want to make sure that our citizens in this community are getting the best bang for their buck. In other words, I want to make sure that it's open to as many people as possible, as many hours as is feasibly possible to make it work for you. That it's not just going to be necessarily hockey clubs, or although I know that's necessary to bring in the revenues and make it work. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm really interested to know what the programming thoughts are on a year-round basis to maximize community involvement. So maybe that's just some thinking we can talk further about, but that's something I'd be interested in knowing more about. Okay.
One thing you can do related to the contract is you guys can have a motion tonight that would allow staff and give them the authority to start working out terms of a contract.
Okay. I mean, to me, there are two major issues facing us. And one, I want to fine tune the number and really understand that, and understand that we are sharing business risk in a fair and equitable way for the city and our private investors. And two, a contract that once again states who does what to whom and how we're accountable to each other. I guess I would make the motion that we continue because we've got it on this agenda for our first meeting in September and the third week in September, right? I would like to continue the discussion, be ready for public comment. What is the meeting?
Be the 18th.
The 18th is
Yeah,
the
but the
action
fir-
meeting,
but the-
the
but the-
4th.
So the first work meeting is September is the 4th.
September
It's not
4th.
scheduled for the 4th.
And we're sending out notice so that the public can speak to that.
The 18th.
Oh,
It would be the 18th.
Oh,
We
will
would
it?
have that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But as a run up to that, I would just like to direct staff to continue the analysis, and we support you in that and want a full analysis. And you're running interference for the city, and just want to hear your perspective
Is there
on
anything
contract and dollars.
particular analysis wise you want? Do you want them just to start? And now that doesn't give us
Yeah.
that's not a clear
No, I understand.
direction at all.
Well, thank you for that.
I'll just point it out as bluntly as I can that that's not helpful.
Well, I think also philosophically for me, there's two ways to look at that. They both involve the city and city rec, but there's two different ways to look at it. One of them is we are working in a true public-private partnership. The other is we come to the table as a donor and a contributor to the project and make a contribution to it. And that is our role in the process. So to me, there's two different ways to look at it. And that would significantly change, I think, how the contract is written up. In other words, if we step up and we say, we believe in this and we want to help it, we're going to be willing to contribute X number of dollars, and we want our name on the building because we gave X, whatever it is. That's one thing. But if we say that this is a true public-private partnership, then we do sit down and we make sure that it is equally equitable and fair to both sides of it as the business partnership goes down the road relative to planning, funding, contributions, all those sorts of things.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the question I have, and I'm not sure how my other council members feel about it, because to me, that changes the tenor of the contractual agreement.
Right. I have been operating under the number 2 option, that it is a
Public-private.
public-private
Yeah.
partnership. So,
And I'm fine with
think-
that. I just want to make sure that that is where we are going into it, and that's how we look at the contractual agreements as we move forward.
And because of that, we've got to create a document that I don't think exists. So I don't think
right.
you can,
This is
you
new.
can't Google this and come up with an answer. And so we need to proceed with that process.
Oh, there's got to be,
Give me a break.
there's got to be, University of Utah does this kind of thing all the time where they have
They
private
do.
entity
They
come
do.
in, and it's on a university campus, and
And legal will work out.
yeah.
They don't post those on Google either.
No, well, I don't know where they post them, but
They keep them in their office.
there you go. There you go.
And I know Logan has struck a deal similar to what we intend in a public-private relationship. So we need to explore that.
Two things could be very helpful, which it sounds like are coming out of this. One, if you make a motion that this is not just a contribution, but a true public-private partnership, if that's what's coming out of it. Another one would be that staff has the direct authorization to start working out contract terms based on the, not a just purely donation model, but a public-private partnership theory. If those are the,
I think that's what was intended.
you,
I didn't say it very clearly, but
But he clearly meant that.
yes, that's how I got to that conclusion.
And I would second that.
So is that the motion you would
Is the
like?
motion.
Well, you took the easy road, Terry.
That is my motion.
And Terry seconds that. Is all in favor of that?
Aye.
Nice.
Scott, are you all in favor, against, for?
This would
No,
just be the discussion.
The
to
discussion
start
of,
working out the
sure,
details.
Okay.
sure, absolutely, yes. I,
Staff is,
I,
staff is charged
I,
with moving
me,
this forward.
them.
He doesn't pay attention sometimes.
Okay. Then with that, is there
So
anything else?
No, just
That was
that,
a lot clearer. We got somewhere.
just that I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No, I know.
Oh, you know what? I was going to ask that question because you said on the 18th, the public. Right. But wouldn't the public have the ability to talk
Did I what?
on the 4th?
Meeting?
It's new to me. It's not new.
Because the 18th would be wanting to make a decision.
No, the public hearing would be on the 18th.
Still let it talk if there's something.
Okay.
The official
And then-
public hearing.
Okay.
No, the 18th.
End of September,
Yeah. it would
week
be
after the 8th. What's that? What's 18
It
plus
will be a
7?
full month from now.
My brain's dead.
Okay. Okay. I was thinking that was the voting night and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's like the public needs to be able to talk before the.
We have
I remember what Tyler said about.
an action and work meeting on the 18th, and then an action meeting on the 25th.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
That's why I was screwed up too, is because with that,
We'll be both then.
Well, then you're saying
I had forgotten that we had kind of screwy schedule. Then a
For the
work and
25th.
an action. So the 18th is gonna be a super long night.
Okay, all right. Well, I can gird up. Ready for that.
Any issues they want. Bill, is the actual,
There's a lot.
the actual
There's a
vote
lot
will be on the
to shake out
25th?
of this, man.
No, we just use that rule to keep the minutes. Yeah, well, so what's the problem?
Oh, believe
It
me.
is. In 10 years, we could have like council going, what the heck were they?
What were those
What were they
guys thinking?
thinking? Yeah, I don't want to be on that end of that, like, who was there?
I had
For garbage.
I know I like it being like exactly transportation.
Co-working innovation space.
Yeah. Your phone number, please.
That has to be done.